All right. Hello, friends and neighbors. Welcome back to the studio class of Low Brass U, where we say, "That's my purse. I don't know you." Here with us today is our fearless leader, Zach. Hello, Zach.
I wasn't expecting that one. It's a good new one.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
I rhymed you with you. That was the trick. You got to
That-
find words that are not only rhyming, but the same.
That's definitely what we look for. But yes, we've got hopefully a good show. Got off to a little bit of a late start, which is my fault. Had some technical issues. It seems like no matter how hard I try, there's always something that goes wrong, which part of it is my fault that I got a new piece of gear to use. But theoretically, the issues that I was having primarily weren't actually the new gear being an issue.
Hmm.
And I'm also going to turn off this automatic scene switcher for now. We're just not going to deal with that today. We don't need it. Our show is not predicated on having the most advanced scene switching possible. So I will manually switch it if we feel so inclined.
It is very fancy, though.
But yes, and we'll I promise by next week I'll have a few more things ironed out. As Connor knows, and as the people who are very, very active on Instagram know, I do have a new toy, which is a new mixer on my desk. So theoretically, we have some new audio capabilities that should be somewhat fun to use. Most of it's kind of internal sort of stuff. Connor will have a better time than he had before. But it'll be fun because we'll be able to have some fun sounds and things that we probably don't need, but we'll take.
But it's cool to have.
So, do you want to explain whose purse?
Whose purse? Oh, that's a. It comes from a television show wherein a character in the show is a middle school age person. He takes a self defense martial arts class. That's and then proceeds to go. The kid in the show says, "That's my purse. I don't know you." When in fact he's a seventh grade boy who doesn't have a purse, but that becomes like his call to arms, and that's the joke.
I see. Yeah, looks like we're not having comments today either. So
We're not.
No, I mean I could fix it, but I'd have to kind of kill things for a second to fix it, and that implies that it's going to work the way that I want it. So we're just gonna take the L on the comments on the screen today.
Roll with it today. A la carte, low brass you.
Yeah, it's better to have a stream than to not have, or I don't know. You know what I was gonna say.
I got you.
So what bass trombone mouthpiece do you use? Do you have a bass trombone mouthpiece, Connor? I know my answer.
I sure don't have a bass trombone mouthpiece, so I would say I use your
4BL.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say a Dennis Wick NA, not applicable.
Yeah. Is that silver plated or gold plated?
Gold plated, baby.
Gold plated. Got it.
In my mind, my imaginary mouthpiece.
So I would say my main bass trombone mouthpiece is a Dennis Wick Heritage 0 AL. That's the one that I've kind of had. I got that in 2012, maybe 2013. No, 2012. So I got that then, and I have used other mouthpieces, and maybe maybe that's not my final mouthpiece, but that's the one that I currently use pretty much all the time. So I'm trying out a few different things. About to start playing bass trombone as a freshman. Assuming that you played tenor trombone before that, the Zero AL is a great mouthpiece. One might argue that it's on the bigger side, especially if you're new to the bass trombone world, and so maybe that's not a good thing. I think mouthpiece advice over the internet is a really hard thing to give, but sometimes I think that people try to get a mouthpiece that is closer to what they had before, which ultimately can lead to it just not being the best mouthpiece for the job. Just because it's close to what you had before doesn't mean that it's good for what you're doing now.
I've been down that rabbit hole before.
It's a really easy kind of thought to think that, I want something like I'm previously was a tenor trombone player. I need something that's tenor trombone like. And I don't know that that's necessarily true. I kind of did this. I had a Dennis Wick 1 AL Heritage that I got before the Zero. At the time at UNT, North Texas, everybody was pretty much, or not everybody, but there was a lot of people who were playing that Zero Heritage because when that mouthpiece came out, years prior to that, because of Vern Cagrice's connection to Dennis Wick, the school had a lot of those mouthpieces lying around as prototypes and things that, so people just ended up playing them a decent bit. So it seemed like that was the right thing, but I kind of fell into that trap of, I should get one size smaller. That's kind of what I told myself. And I did it. It's not like that's a bad mouthpiece. And it's funny because that's one of the very few mouthpieces that I've actually sold. And then I got the Zero. But now I have a Dennis Wick 1 AL that I picked up a couple of years ago. And so that it's not the exact same mouthpiece. It's not the Heritage model. But essentially I ended up getting the same mouthpiece years later. But I have a Schilke 51D mouthpiece right now with my Yamaha 448 trombone. I don't know the 448 off the top of my head. Let's see, Yamaha 44. Do you know I don't know the Yamaha models super well off the top of my head.
No, I'm not hip to the numbers. All good horns though.
Let's see, 448 looks to be closed wrap, rose brass bell potentially, 525 bore. No, 547 bore. I'm looking at the wrong one. So kind of a standard size, orchestral tenor. So 51D, yeah, 51D is a great mouthpiece. That's the only mouthpiece that I have in every shank, basically. Like I have small, large, and medium of the 51D.
Medium.
For the euphonium.
That's right.
It came with my my Wilson, and so did a large shank one, which is kind of odd because it doesn't take a large shank. So why would I have a large shank mouthpiece? I think it was just left in the gig bag that I got because it was not cleaned. Which I bought this from a store. I think if they knew it was there, they would have cleaned it. So I don't think that they knew that it was there. But anyway, I already had a large shank one, so I traded that for a small shank one, and now I have small, medium, and large. So
I have a question. I feel like there's a word that I've heard said before about mouthpiece like fitting like the shank thing that might just be a made up word. Or it might be this
gap?
No, not gap. In like regard, you said medium shank. What is, I've heard someone describe Euro shank, like a European shank for horns. Is that different than medium? Is that a different thing entirely?
Most of the time, if we're talking, trombone euphonium land, if someone is referring to medium shank, Euro shank, or even euphonium shank, most of the time that's meaning the same thing, which is something that's in between a large shank, the Morse shank or Morse taper. Large shank mouthpieces is what we have for our large shanks now, or some people even refer to that shank as a bass trombone shank. That's not an uncommon, like specifically with the Wilson euphonium that I have. one of the modifiers that you can get. It comes with a medium shank stock, but an option that you can get is the BT model, which is bass trombone shank.
Interesting.
Which is a large shank. As if you put a large shank mouthpiece in a bass trombone, large tenor mouthpiece, it fits the same, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know where all these names come from. And I think ultimately they're just multiple places in the world where these things were decided, and they've kind of melded into one. And even then, we can talk about these things as if they're all perfectly shaped the same, but they're really there's definitely some subtlety to all of these mouthpiece shanks. And so not every mouthpiece fits exactly right in every horn. But yeah, medium, Euro, or euphonium. Like I've heard Dr. Bowman call the medium shank euphonium shank. Like I think there's like a little bit of like that's euphonium shank, going on with that one.
I see.
So I had an Eastman trombone, but something happened to it, so I traded it in for the trombone I have now. I mean, the Yamaha makes really great stuff, especially when you're looking at intermediate instruments or beginner instruments. To me, they make some of the best because I feel like their quality control is the same level for their intermediate as their professional horns, which I don't feel like I can say so for every single company. I feel like I haven't played a brand new Yamaha that didn't have an 8 out of 10 or higher slide.
Yeah, it's always very consistent.
Which I'm critical. Like 8 out of 10, that's good. I would imagine that
you're pretty picky.
Most people watching this probably aren't on an 8 out of 10 slide. Like the 8 out of 10 is a good slide. That's not a knock on Yamaha or knock on anything. It's like 8 out of 10 is usable. I have some 8 out of 10 slides. We just want better. We want elite. Which etude for trombone is, in your opinion, was the hardest this year? I'm trying to remember what they were now. It's not that, they were. I do those so quickly. I mean, I practice them. I have to work on them, but it's like I do them as quickly as possible, more or less. So I assume you're talking about TMEA etudes. I feel like the A minor one, was that the hard? Technically challenging one. I'd have to look at them to remind myself which one's which, because I just don't remember. They are all great etudes, though.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Most popular. That A minor one starts with the A minor arpeggio. What's the other one? And then that F major one. And yeah, probably there's some tricky stuff in the first etude, the A minor one. There's like, you have to pop out some low notes pretty quickly. A flat major. Are you sure? I think it's just A minor. Unless am I looking at the wrong year? 21, 22? Oh, A flat major being let's see. Yeah. There were some work to do with those, but I think everybody's done with those at this point, right? TME is around the corner. Nobody's really working on those anymore.
Hopefully.
I haven't worked on it since, hours before those videos came out. That's when I stopped working on them, generally speaking. I guess I had to do some master classes and things on them, but that's where I put in most of the work. A lot of great questions from one person, but there are other people online that are allowed to ask some questions. So
yeah, we appreciate you.
But we're happy to answer them. The F major one was the hardest. Yeah, that one had some stuff in it too, and it was pretty quick. But yeah, so hopefully next week I'll have some of our kind of tech sort of things figured out, and we'll have some new advanced features that we have not previously had. I promise all these tech things have a point and will be used at some point to add value.
Yes.
To this
production value.
Right. But yeah, just talking about mouthpieces. Connor, I'm curious to what's the mouthpiece that you've played the longest, like in your life?
Mouthpiece that I play the longest that's probably still the 6.5 AL. because that one went straight from 6th grade band all the way to second year of grad school.
And
like
was that large shank and small shank, or just?
No, that was just small.
So that was what you played on, like a beginner trombone to a
Mm-hmm.
jazz trombone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you went to the 6 3/4 after that. Is that correct?
No, never did 6 3/4 actually.
For some reason, I thought that's right, because you borrowed mine for a while, but
Mm-hmm. Just didn't take to it for whatever reason. I think I had it fixed in my head that I needed to do this very silly thing of having like a larger jazz mouthpiece because I wanted some sort of sound that I wanted. I think additionally, it kind of went back to that thing we talked about before that was like when you start getting a new mouthpiece for a horn and you're transitioning from another horn, you want that new mouthpiece to feel like your primary horn. And there was this thought that I had in my head before I got to grad school where I was like, man, I wish I had a jazz trombone mouthpiece that had the same rim as my classical one so that my setup didn't change. Back when I used to think about brass in the same way that, it was like hocus pocus, it was not accurate or informed by any sort of lived experience. I just thought in my head, oh, wouldn't it be cool if those two circles were the same size?
right.
Wouldn't that make my playing more uniform? Turns out it doesn't. It just makes it so when you play a giant mouthpiece on your jazz trombone, it sounds like you have your large tenor mouthpiece stuck into your jazz horn and you're fighting some giant mouthpiece.
Yeah.
So at least for me,
it's definitely like your mileage may vary. I mean, there are people who play the same mouthpiece from large tenor all the way up until alto, and it's like they make it work. I kind of more on the side of there's the best tool for the job. And trying, obviously for what I do, it's impossible to play the same mouthpiece for everything.
Right. Well, not impossible. We say everything's possible with a solder in a dream, or what was it?
A blowtorch in a dream.
Blowtorch in a dream.
With I mean, yeah, technically, since I have some
that's some content.
Yeah, I have some mouthpieces in large shank and small shank. My F tuba has a bass trombone, tenor trombone, large shank on it. So other than my C tuba, I could play the same mount. I could play a Schilke 51D on everything but my C tuba.
What you need to do is, like the audio industry has this thing, that little, you can't see it because my stylish virtual background, the headphone jack that turns it like 1/8 inch into 1/4 inch. We need that for the mouthpiece world. Take your 6.5 AL.
I mean, they have those, not in like every crazy variety, but they definitely.
How far can we go? Can we go like small board, like alto trombone mouthpiece into an F tuba? Like where's the line?
I don't think so. I think that as far as I know, I think they're for relevant to us. I think they're just large shank like put in a small shank mouthpiece, put an adapter on it, goes into a large shank.
And you couldn't there's like no adapter for large shank to tuba?
At least not commercially available, but it's not like there's a reason why science couldn't do that, I don't think.
Well, there you go. That's all we need.
So, you're enjoying moving a lot today. I keep
oh, am I? I got the wiggles.
Yeah, I keep moving you back and forth.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I've been zooming a lot today.
It's okay. You don't have the program feed like you're supposed to. Anyway, so let's get to some of these questions. I'm a sophomore, MEA, all-stater with decent fundamentals, but my scales are absolutely sucking, and they've always been that way. What's the best scale study you've played? I don't really know how to answer that question. Do you have an answer that is readily available to you, Connor? I don't really think about practicing scales as like I don't think about like using some book to work on my scales. I kind of do it more just like, okay, I'm going to play all my major scales 2 octaves in whole steps, then go up half step, then do all the other whole steps, or whatever, random, some sort of seemingly random order, and then another like way of doing it, and maybe doing different patterns and things like that. But I'm not usually I'm just doing that mentally, not looking at it anywhere.
There was a period of time where I was really thinking a little bit more critically about like they always you always go to a master class and they say, oh yeah, make up your own exercise for scales. And sometimes when I would go to do that, it's like, okay, I'll start the scale on every scale degree. I'll do it in thirds, fourths, fifths, or whatever. And it was like there was kind of like the boilerplate, like the first few that I get through. And by the time I did a couple, it was tired, and I wasn't really getting that far into it. And so luckily I have this book right in front of me right here that I'll read a small excerpt from if you think that's cool, Zach. It's from David Baker's book. I think that like most of the best scale practice that I've done has probably come from a jazz informed place. And I think that I was improvising and making up scalar passages for myself in that type of practicing well before I got to a point in college where it was like, or like in school where like my scales needed to be super together. It's like by the time I got to that regular like major minor scale test, I was already messing around with scales enough, just noodling, that when it was just like, oh, start on the first note and go up and come down, it's like, cool, that's fine. Like that wasn't a problem because I had already abstracted it far enough and done harder stuff with the scale so that when I went to go just play just like a plain Jane scale, that became easy. So here's a couple of suggestions from someone way smarter than me, the late great David Baker. This is a book called Practicing Jazz, A Creative Approach. Recommend it to anybody who just like wants to like, it's kind of like a brain teaser book. So it's like that whole thing, like what's the thing people do where they have like, they're like, or what is it? You put your pinky on your ear and your thumb on your nose, and then you got to switch them, right? Like brain teaser type things like that. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, aren't I?
Well,
anyways,
it's fine. I can't help you. I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyways, here's some ways to play. He says all genres of scales, which of genre I think he's meaning like different like qualities of scales, like major, minor, diminished, whatever. Start on the lowest note playable on your instrument. Go to the highest comfortable note. Ascending and descending, all keys, all tempos, all dynamics, with varied articulations, varied colorations, that is, with variations in timbre and using with sound altering devices such as mutes, etc. Nice. Varying rhythms. That's kind of exciting. One that I thought was really cool, it's farther in the book, is to, let me see if I can find it. I was just looking at it today. Arbitrarily altering the scale. So once you think you know C major or your diatonic majors, it's like, all right, cool. Now do major with a flatted 5 and see if your brain can process that and digitally play a C major scale and then accurately flat the 5. That proves in your brain, like reflexively, you already knew the major scale because you're intentionally abstracting it and you can accurately execute that and hear it in your head and play it out of your horn. So finding what like things like that to do that really mess around with the scale.
That's kind of interesting because I kind of do something similar to that, kind of as just like a kind of as a low range exercise more than anything, but it's kind of outside of the scope of a lot of what we talk about. But doing bebop scales is something that we talk about in jazz sometimes, of adding a note to make it where every other note that you're playing is a chord tone or a passing tone, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know, at least you and I know this. I'm not sure if everybody else does, but that's essentially the idea of those scales. So in the case of, a dominant chord, adding the major seventh, so you have root, root, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, flat seventh, major seventh, root again. And so what I kind of do to keep some level of, this isn't necessarily the same thing as a bebop scale because it doesn't really make sense in that way, but I'll do my major scales descending 1 octave, and so that there are 8 unique notes, and so there's a nice pattern to it, I'll add like the flat 2.
Yeah.
And just like, because I want it to be symmetrical for no reason.
Yeah. No, I like that because then it kind of fits into a meter and you can kind of do some stuff with it.
But I do like that idea of something better if you're able to abstract it, because I think that's one of the things I feel like I struggle in my own improvisation at times is like, well, I've like checked off the box in some ways. Like I've learned how to do this thing. Like I know how to do it. Kind of what we were talking about maybe it was last week or a couple weeks ago, I can't remember, but talking about like, bebop, that's not the only way to play, but that's the only way that some of us play. And I think that idea of, being able to play around the idea of jazz or something along those lines. Like you think about like someone like, I don't know, like Elliot Mason's, like he is playing jazz, don't get me wrong, but it's like he's just like playing. It's like it's not so clearly just like bebop common language.
Right.
Which
There's like it's extemporaneous in a way that he's facility over the whole horn, and there's clearly like, especially in Elliot's playing, like there's lots of like tricky things where he's thinking about more things than one in the practice room that he's worked out, so that reflexively things that sound to us like these intricate, complicated patterns are in the moment probably very simple, or maybe not simple, but at least they come naturally to Elliot because they've spent the time doing the slow business of really thinking stuff out that that they want to have come out of the horn when the time is right. One other thing I want to talk about with this one that I thought was really cool that I was looking at was thinking about altering the scale, trying to play what isn't. And so that's like, you have one piece of knowledge that you have to actively think about in your brain. That is the major scale. That is the notes that are in it. You have to go up and down those notes. And you also have to know about the ones that you change. So the example they have here is 1, flat 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you were in the key of C, C, D flat, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C would be the notes. So that's 2 things to think about. Your regular scale, and now what your scale isn't anymore. We've changed it. Then add one more layer. Play it in ascending thirds or fourths or fifths or something like that. So their example, they're kind enough to write it out and see if you can follow along with me. This is our C major flat 2 sharp 4 scale up in thirds. C, E, D flat, F sharp, E, G, F sharp, A. I don't think I could have said that fast if I wasn't looking at the music, right?
Yeah.
That's like a really cool way. And it's like, if you can do that, I'm going to bet when it comes to C, or C, even like melodic minor, you'll be fine, because that's a lot harder than playing either of those.
Yeah, it's funny because I always talk, with some of my students, especially in Texas, there are a lot of scale sheets that have 8 of the major scales or 9 of, I'm not sure exactly how many, but not all 12 traditional major scales. And I've had students where it's like I feel like I blow their mind explaining them that there are more major scales. These aren't all the scales. And then once that's kind of sunk in, it's just like, and there are more scales than that. Like there are infinite numbers of scales. It's just some level of organization. It doesn't have to sound good. It doesn't have to sound cool. It could be a scale, there are just and there's always another scale to practice or another scale to play and a pattern or something like that. That's definitely something that I've been trying to be better about, is like practicing different scale things that I haven't practiced before, like things that you learn in school but no one really tested you on, and so you didn't do it.
Right.
And not that not that the next coolest thing that I'm going to play is, some harmonic major, super hip line or something, but doing things that way. I think that's like all this got a little bit away from the original question, but ultimately I think the thing that we're trying to get at with scales is like, use your brain. I think that's you should be trying to trick yourself, or not trick yourself, but trying to think about things in a new way. And like when one version of a scale, like once just playing your regular major scales is really easy, not saying you should never go back to that, but move on to something else, move on to playing them in fourths or fifths or something. Everybody plays them in thirds, but do you play your major scales in fourths or fifths, or things like that, or in sixths? Little things like that you can do to kind of change things up a little bit. We should answer, we're both of us starter trombone players, so I'll let you go first on that.
I was not a starter trombone player. For being absolutely like critically and chronological about it, my first like musical thing that I did was piano. I think when I was 7, I'd started taking piano lessons. And then as far as band, my first choice was the saxophone. And
Very
so
original.
much so, I know, but hey, I actually wanted it. And I think I wanted to play saxophone more than my friends did. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but I took saxophone lessons the summer before 5th grade band.
I don't think I knew that. I don't think that's ever come up.
Yep. And I took those lessons, and I was very confused. I wasn't doing that great with it, but like I like kind of like had some notes ready. I was ready to go into fifth grade band, and then I get to fifth grade band. This was I did not meet my like longtime school teacher. Mr. Wooten was not the teacher at the time. It was this other guy who's kind of Yahoo. And we all get there. There's like 8 of us playing saxophone, anyways, like like it is. And he looks at all of us and he goes, "No." It's like just like you're not doing that. And he was like, "Some of you all need to switch." And just like I felt like he just like stared at me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I guess I'll switch. And so I switched to trumpet. But I bet none of them took lessons over the summer. So, anyways, I abandoned the saxophone. I gave it up. I was crushed and played the trumpet in fifth grade band. And then I was the worst. I was not the worst. I was the second worst trumpet player in sixth grade band. And because of that, I didn't want to sit next to the kid in last chair because he kept having crayons and hymn cutters and all types of things falling out of his horn all the time. And so I was like, I want to go sit by my friend Alan. And he was playing the euphonium. And I was like, hey, I want to go play euphonium with Alan. And my band director, my longtime friend, Mr. Wooten, Matt Wooten, was like, no, your arms are too long. You have to play trombone, which was a lie. He just didn't have a trombone player in the band. And so that's how we got there.
Yeah, my story is not the same, but it's there are some similarities between it. Yeah, so I started on piano. I guess we're going outside of brass land, just chronological. Started on piano, played that for a while, then also started playing like some drum set things and took lessons on both. Little fuzzy on the timeline of all, but I think that all of that was before I ever played a brass instrument. And then I started playing like baritone euphonium in elementary school. That was like the first brass instrument.
Oh,
I got like my parents got me a baritone on eBay that's very much questionable quality that is still in their basement. I have not played it for quite some time. And then I guess technically, if we want to be real accurate here, I did buy a valve trombone in elementary school with my own allowance money.
Really?
I saved up like birthday allowance and money, Christmas money. Like I don't know exactly where the funds came from, but I saved up my own money to buy a valve trombone on eBay, also of questionable quality, which is also still in my parents' house.
Oh my gosh.
So,
I knew that you had a valve trombone, that it was in your parents' basement, but I did not know the story of how it came to be.
yeah, and I remember I brought it to like elementary school band stuff, and the band teacher was just like, you can bring it, like you have it today, so that's fine, but like leave it
What?
next time. I had to go back to the thing.
Why?
So, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Do they not understand it's the same tubes?
Well, he's a trombone player. He definitely understood. I think he was sipping on some Haterade.
Wow, that sounds like it.
But yeah, I still have the like desire to get into valve trombone. I know that you have cornered the valve trombone market, and I don't want to infringe on your intellectual property.
There can only be one.
There can only be one.
One valve trombone player on the planet at once, apparently.
I do often. I'll pull it up here on screen. Actually, no, I don't have that capability. Do I have that capability? Let's see. Yeah, I don't know what I screwed up something in OBS. I don't know what I did, but when we do the music close up, which should work for that, it's just a bigger version of you with the two of us on the side.
Look at us.
So not really sure what I did. So when I got this mixing console, it's definitely, it's too big for this desk. That is true. I did get a deal on it, and that's why I got this one. So this is a 24 fader, 20. It does 24 on here before you have to bank over and go technically can mix 48 channels, but it's really 24 that you kind of see. I wanted the one that was 18, which is like 20 inches wide, and this one is more like 28 inches wide. So it's definitely taking up more of my desk, and I removed all the computer stuff out of my desk and unplugged a bunch of cables. Even things are color coded. I thought everything would be organized and very clear, and plugging it back in, but I seem to have done some things incorrectly.
You goofed.
But anyway, I do think I do look at that valve trombone. Is it Valve Trombones Are Us? Is that the website?
Was that the one that you showed me with like the really, really, really nice ones?
Oh yeah, I think that's what it is. Is that? Yeah, valve trombones are us,
That's
which
hilarious.
just gives you like that dates itself in a lot of ways, as you know.
There's a cutoff date for sure.
But yeah, they just have some. I'll drop it the link in the chat at least, even though I can't show it on screen. We'll get there. We'll be back next week with functioning technology. But yeah, they're all super expensive, but they're so clean.
Right. It's just like I want one so bad. They're so cool.
Like the cheapest, because I'd want a Con. I think I'm pretty sure of that. Like
That's the Brookmeyer way.
right, and like the cheapest Con that they have is $4,000. But it's like it seems like they do a pretty good job. Like that, it comes with a nice Glenn Cronkite case.
Oh my gosh, it's so expensive.
Yeah, and like, it's definitely relacquered, which, it's not the way I probably wouldn't have relacquered it myself, but I won't lie that it does look very good.
It does look good.
Relacquered. But yeah, I kind of just like, I don't know where this place is located, or if they have I don't think they have a physical store. I feel like this is just like one person. But yeah, there's just an email address. But yeah, maybe this isn't even still, a thing. Maybe this is a dead website. But yeah, I would definitely like to just like go try all of them and buy the one that I like. But, valve trombone's really not going to probably pay the bills.
Speak for yourself. No, you're right.
So I left my baritone at school, but I have my trumpet. That's all good.
Skull emoji.
Yeah.
Trumpet mischief.
Yeah, and I don't know this piece, I don't think.
I was just about to silently listen to it on my phone.
Do I know this piece?
I feel like I've played it before. The Corral and Shaker dance, is that what you're talking about?
Maybe I do know it. My band literature knowledge is, it's like I've played a lot of important pieces, but kind of have forgotten them because it's been a while. So I don't have an opinion, unfortunately. Connor's going to listen to the whole piece and give us
I just listened to about like 1.5 seconds and 3 different sections of it. It didn't immediately like ring like a bell, but it wrote like a tiny bell, maybe like in the back of the building of my brain, the vacant building that is my brain.
That is your band knowledge.
I'm a band kid. I did band.
I know you did band, but like
I was there in the trenches. I feel like I did Corral and Shaker dance at like an honor band or something like that. Like I feel like it was like a weekend passing tune. Like I don't think I sat for like weeks in front of like my band director at school with it, but because I feel very strongly like I've played it. If I haven't played it, I've definitely sat in an audience and held a program and read it, because there's no like I mean maybe there's more than one Corral and Shaker dance, but I feel like I recognize that song title.
There's a good chance I played it and just don't remember. Maybe I would know it if I listened to it, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting how like the trajectory of band for, I feel like a lot of professional or as you transition from being a student into professional life, it's like you start out where band is like the only thing, like middle school,
right?
High school,
it's all
like,
band.
It's just wind ensemble, concert band, like that's all that it ever is. And then in college, depending on where you are, depending on what your situation is, that it might continue through there. And then it's not like you can't do it in the real world, but there are military bands. That's a job that you do that in. Outside of that, there's not really a whole lot that actually pays. I mean, there are some things like occasionally, it's been a while now, but occasionally I sub in the Dallas Winds and get to play some fun wind band literature. But outside of that, I mean,
it's like 4th of July.
Yeah, maybe? I mean, it could happen.
And your repertoire is going to be limited.
Right.
That's the last time I've played in like a wind band was 4th of July.
Yeah, I mean, I think children's concerts in like 2019 with the Dallas Winds is the last time I played in a wind ensemble.
Yeah.
Um,
It's fun. I miss band. Band was so much fun.
yeah, they're definitely, I think the most fun I had in band was like when I played euphonium, playing in band. That was fun.
Yeah. Euphonium's definitely the best band. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
band is for the euphonium. Like that
right.
is like
Tuba depend, like there are some shining moments in the tuba literature, but there's a lot of unsung hero moments.
you gotta be in a situation where like you as the composer are making a decision of like, I'm gonna throw a bone at the tuba section.
Right.
Whereas like band like lends itself to like, oh, where does like the really cool virtuosic counter melody of this piece go?
Yeah, it's like
Well, the industry standard says give it to the euphoniums.
there's nothing better than when you're playing euphonium and then you have like, it's the last time through the main melody,
Uh-huh.
and you're the cool new thing that is happening.
Right. And it's just shred. Like you're the fastest piece of
And it's
counterpoint.
just like everyone get out of the way, just like euphonium.
Yep.
You.
I would love to be a euphonium in a band that you're conducting. Just like you. Go.
Right. Just directly. So yeah, I mean, there definitely are some fun moments with that. I have had some nice moments playing tuba and band. In college, I'm definitely one of those people that in college I didn't play in band a whole lot. I did, for each degree that I did 1 year of band. Like I did.
You did a lot of big band.
The bands, which ironically are smaller.
Right, that's funny.
But yeah, I mean, I played in symphonic band at UNT when I was an undergrad for 1 year. Other than that, I was either not in a band, not in a concert ensemble, or I was in orchestra or one of the orchestras. And then Northwestern for my master's is one. I think it was three. It was on the quarter system, so it was 6 quarters, and it kind of was all ping ponged around. But I think it was 3 quarters on tuba, and there 2 quarters on tuba and wind ensemble, 1 on euphonium, and then I did wind symphony at UNT during my doctorate for 1 year, and that was the only ensemble that I did during the doctorate. But yeah, it's just like you get a little bit of. I got a little bit of band in there, but I did get a lot of band in high school. I would say more than most. Just the amount of literature and things that that we ended up playing and stuff. So I did get my fair share of band, but it's been, again, it's like you don't really do it professionally. That at least most people don't. Like even if you're a full-time member of the Dallas Winds, it's not like that's every weekend that you're playing. It's really just if you're in a military band playing. Those are the people who play. I mean, at least in the United States.
Right.
There are community bands and other opportunities as well. Not a knock on them, but they're sometimes hard to fit into a schedule when you've got other things going on. But yeah, band definitely has some really fun moments. A lot, you get to play a lot more than an orchestra. That's always a nice detail.
It's a cool like built-in community that you will have because it's a lot of people that have all committed their time to sit around for the express purpose of music making. And when you're an adult, it's just hard to get like enough people to make a wind band. It's a lot of people. It's hard to get that many people that can play instruments free and available all at the same time in the same room.
Right.
So I think that's
an important detail. It's like in the real world, just like large ensembles are kind of hard.
Right.
And they're not getting any easier. It's a lot. A lot of mouths to feed and a lot of people to get into schedules to align and.
Yeah, I mean, quintets are hard. I'm having the hardest time even getting 5 musicians that can all make a rehearsal in a day, like 2 days on a calendar out of 365. Can you get 5 people scheduled to line up to be free? That can also play the instruments that you need. It all of a sudden it's like, oh, that is kind of hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, like on the jazz side of things, like big band, that's kind of hard to fill. It's like. You do that if you're a jazz major in university, you're playing in a big band, at least a couple times a week, if not every day of the week or something. And you just like that becomes normal. And then you enter the real world. And it's like sometimes you might have a weekly big band thing that you're doing that exists out there in the world. But there are a lot of, it's like I go, I haven't played in a big band 2.5 years or so now. It feels like I could be missing something, but it's like it's just not super common.
Right.
I was going to say that we should probably call it there, and then Brian hits us with this mega question of top 10 trombonists and top 10 musicians.
Oof, that's tough.
that seems almost impossible. I almost don't even want to. That's tempting to just ignore Brian. I think just like just because that's a daunting task, and someone's gonna get left off.
Right.
Um,
Dare we try one of those?
We'll try the top 10 trombonists. Let's do it like we've been doing the last few things of we'll alternate.
Right, we go back and forth.
And let's add one other layer, which is definitely not what Brian asked, but it's not your show, Brian. So
yes, it is.
It is Brian's show. Brian does ask a lot of great questions, so maybe we should keep Brian happy. But let's do maybe just unsung heroes a little bit, like not
So top 10 trombonists that don't always make it onto the top 10 trombonist list. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like Joseph Alessi is off limits for this.
Okay.
Christian Lindbergh is off limits. J.J. Johnson is off limits.
Okay. All right, I'll try my best here. My favorite other 10 trombone players. Do you want to go or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. John Allred.
Ooh, really good one.
I mean, for the amount of people who like don't know him, like compared to how good he is, I think that's like one of the great disparities. Like people are just like, yeah, I feel like I've heard that name. And it's just like if you watch one video of him or listen to one track, you'd be like, oh,
yes, like you'll be sold.
It's like that. It's that serious,
Absolutely.
So we'll go. That's number 10. These are no real order, but we'll do 10 of them.
All right. I'll do David Baker. That's my trombone player. From I'm specifically thinking of the George Russell aesthetic album that he famously plays on and just absolutely shreds. So I think it's lost often that is just because of so much that he contributed to like theory and education and like outreach and all that stuff. Also, it's like even if he had done none of that, I think that we would still know David Baker's name today as like someone to remember as a trombone player.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, did you ever meet him for anything?
Yes, I was lucky enough to do his Aebersold theory class.
Yeah, that's where I met him as well. I remember he was wearing like a Kobe Bryant 8 jersey, like an old school like purple and like I know Lakers are always purple and yellow, but like an older an early Kobe Bryant jersey, and he's just sitting at the piano talking about jazz theory, and it's like at like 9 a.m. It's just like, all right, that's
what's up.
This is what we're doing. I don't know. I had my first one pretty easily. I might have made it too hard.
No, I like this. I'm trying to like reach back and think about like people that I really, really enjoy that I don't give space for sometimes. When I
kind of talked about this one last week because I think we did albums or something. I'm gonna go Andy Hunter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's another one that like even people who call themselves jazz trombonists don't always know who Andy Hunter is, and just like should check him out.
Right. It's like names that like I wish I had time, and made time for every time that like I'm at like a class or something. They ask me, who should I be checking out? Next one for me is Tyree Glenn from like Ellington's band and Louis Armstrong and all that stuff. Just absolutely slamming, but also like one that I don't make time to listen to enough. And one that I only really discovered over the past, I think it was like a couple of years, I've really gotten hip to Tyree Glenn. And that was one of the ones that I realized like the rock that I was living under when I started checking them out. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Yeah.
I feel like we need to get out of the jazz realm a little bit. If we can.
All right.
Let's see here. I'm gonna go. I mean, see, it is tricky when you put that layer on. Is this person too famous? This person,
right? And then I'm trying to think like, yeah,
because those other ones were pretty like, yeah, people don't know those people for the most part. But let's see. David Rahano, he's pretty nice on the trombone.
I'm not familiar.
Principal trombone in L.A. So,
okay. See, these are things I should know.
Apparently, my volume is much softer today. So that's not good. I don't even know how I have this wired because everything is silly. Let's see. Is it this way? Let's see.
That made it quieter.
So now it's louder.
Now it's louder.
Yeah, I should probably be checking things on these streams. I'm so close to getting things better. But theoretically now I should be able to be heard. So I will get things figured out. I did grab they're back there, but I have like some drum headphones that are like super noise canceling. So I'm going to be able to I'll use those to check the stream volume at some point. That's my next plan, is to like check the volume on the stream and make sure that's all good. So sorry if I couldn't be heard. In any event of any technical problem, assume we don't know, and you can put it in the chat. So we are happy to take feedback, and ideally should probably get some feedback. I think it's harder than it looks to like have everything set up to like do, to be on camera to do things, and then also have all of the tech stuff work out in the meantime. But is it my turn? I think it's your turn.
I think it's my turn.
Yeah.
My next one is Melba Liston.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, slam and trombone player, and also a great arranger. And if I think like one of like the biggest, like if I need instant goosebumps, I go listen to her play over her own arrangement of My Reverie from the Quincy Jones Big Band.
Yeah.
Which is a great live version of that on YouTube that I used to like, especially at my first teaching job when I was just like big sad, like how do I do classroom management? I don't know. And I just like didn't know what to do. I would just like turn that on the projector and just listen for a second.
Yeah.
That got me through the hard times.
Feel like we need bass trombone in here.
We probably do. That's going to be more your wheelhouse.
Who is a great bass trombone player that people don't know? So that's just so tricky.
Just think about a bass trombone player that I wouldn't know about. Which is most of them.
Yeah, but let's see here. We also probably should go international at some point too.
My next one was going to be international.
Okay, I'll let you do that. Let's do George Curran for bass trombone. Do you know who that is?
George. Yeah, the New York bass trombonist. And he also was classmate of my professor at WKU, Lee Blakeman. They went to CCM at the same time.
So does that mean that I'm invalid now because you said to pick someone that you didn't know?
That's right, you are. You picked the one bass trombone player in the whole planet that I actually know the name of and can like remember.
Yeah, I mean, we do talk about things from time to time. So it's, even if you didn't know someone at some point, you might know them now because we talked about it.
Probably anecdotally just from our conversations.
Yeah.
But to be fair, you still like got my like first proverbial goose because you said George Curran, and I was like, oh, you mean the guy from the Stan Kenton Orchestra? And I was like, no, that's George Roberts. And I was like, that seems like, I feel like people would know about that person. Like,
but then again, George Roberts was, I think we're going to count George Roberts because we're doing our best here.
Okay.
Because I don't think, I think that George Roberts had a lot of fame, like, relative trombone fame in his day.
Right.
But oh, how quickly we forget.
That's true. It's like most people our age aren't talking about George Roberts unless they had a conversation with somebody that was like, listening to stuff during that time, like Kenton Band specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one, like, I guess, with the ITF competition that is in his name, it's like there are some other things that are in his name. It's like that kind of keeps the name alive, but I don't think everybody knows like what he sounded like.
Right.
But he's a bass trombone player that got in front of the band. Like that's amazing.
Right. And that was not happening.
We're still trying to get back to that.
Yeah. We peaked.
So we need two more. I don't know who.
Right.
I don't know who counts as giving us George Roberts, but you're next anyway.
I'm going to say my next one was going to be Nils Wahlgren, jazz trombone player from Germany, who I think teaches at Hamburg, maybe? Not really sure. but
Yeah, I don't know exactly what goes on
has
over across the pond.
has been one of my favorite improvising musicians for the past like couple of years now. I think that I first learned about them embarrassingly in like 2019, and I've been playing catch up ever since, and have found so many more branches of like the trombone improvisation, like creative music tree because of like, he's prolific. He has a lot of work. He's collaborated with a lot of people that I've now listened to, and great musician.
Yeah. So I guess it's
We need one more.
left
Last
up to
one.
me. Oh man. Yeah, I don't have it right now. I don't have someone who's not famous, but I'm gonna go.
I've got one more that I wish people talked about. Oh wait, no, sorry, you go. You've got one. I want to hear it.
People do know who this person is, so I'll preface it with that. But I feel like we haven't talked about him at all on this stream. Maybe we have a long time ago, but Andy Martin.
Andy Martin?
Yeah. We talked about him.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about him like on stream very
Maybe
much.
not explicitly.
Like I think that's one. Not that. I mean, everybody's heard him. That's not an issue.
Right. Yeah. Whether you know it or not, you have.
But not. I don't think everybody's checking out his like personal stuff.
Yeah, his like creative music is great. His albums are spectacular.
And his solos on just like various things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you want to do your last honorable mention?
Yes, my last one that I wish people talked about more is Shannon Barnett. Like just
fried green onions. Is that one of the?
I thought it was tomatoes.
Fried, but is
it green tomatoes? Or no, sun-dried tomatoes.
Sun-dried tomatoes.
Yes,
yeah, that's right.
That's what it is. But, fried green tomatoes is definitely a tune. I think that's that might be a David or is that someone has a fried green tomatoes tune? I can't remember.
Yeah. Some word association. Well, I think we should call it there. I think that's that's a good like way to do it. So, do you want to play us out? I don't really want to play us out. I've already.
Sure. Yeah, I can play really quick.
Okay.
Let's see. What are we gonna play?
Can you go?